Welcome to the second part of a series of podcasts with the main man, Frankie D. This is Chok Muay Chats, episode 33. We had episode 32 last week, which will be uploaded very soon, available on Spotify and YouTube. I'm Joe Comerford, content creator, commentator at RWS, SKS, and a plethora of other promotions here in Thailand. This is the conversation about everything Muay Thai, but this week we're talking about business, the business of gyms. So, Frankie D, what better man than yourself to talk about the business of gyms? Now, last week we talked a little bit about your journey into Muay Thai, and then we started talking about now your corporate advisory business now, I would say.
Hey, you
And
make it sound very elegant.
well, I try to. A corporate advisor in the world of Muay Thai. So we were talking about topics during the week, and one of the main topics he wanted to talk about is the biggest business mistakes that owners face. Can you give us a rundown of some of the mistakes that gym owners probably face?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you're a combat sports gym owner and you're listening to this, ask yourself one simple question. Why the McDojo down the road is financially crushing it while your fight gym struggles? You train champions, you built a strong team, so why is the gym with the junior instructors and watered down kung fu technique making more money than you? And look, that question might rub people up the wrong way, but it's the biggest business mistake that all these club owners make. And the answer is really simple. If your gym doesn't exist online, you don't exist to beginners.
We were just talking about that off camera about the power of social media at the moment. Even myself, I would not have got half of the opportunities that I have now without the power of social media. Putting yourself out there is really important, but especially if you're running a business, right? And trying to scale that business, now is the time that you've got to utilize social media to your advantage. Now, that word of mouth idea that we can't really rely on that anymore. Reputation is a big thing in Muay Thai, and it certainly will always cover a certain level of bases. But in terms of scaling businesses or gyms, I don't think that is any longer the case for gym owners.
No, absolutely not. And I always discuss with all the club owners, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this is going to have an aha moment where they hit a plateau. Because typically for me, I won't work with a club owner unless they organically grow to about 70, 80 members themselves. If you can't get 70, 80 members yourself after a year or two, I can't save you.
Mm.
But that word of mouth quickly dies off. It's a huge element. It's so important. But word of mouth alone grows you organically. Organic growth limits at a certain number. Some club owners, it caps out at about 80. Others I've seen about 120, 130. Maybe out of the 75 I've worked with now, one or two of them have got around the 150 mark. But that's where you hit the dead end mark. And those club owners, typically, I've seen them 10 years in the game, running PTs all day, doing the admin all day, potentially have another job, teaching all the classes in the evening, and burnt out completely.
Yeah, it's a reality of even being in this business, you're involved in so many facets, sorry, of the sport. Whether you're a fighter, if you're a fighter, you start out as a fighter, right? You'll end up holding pads for your teammates, and then you'll end up being a cornerman, and then you'll end up helping at your local promotion. But then when you turn into a gym owner, you're still taking on all those tasks at the same time. And a lot of those roles can actually burn out business owners. How do you find that gym owners can avoid business burnout?
And that's a really interesting topic. So, one of the hardest things that I see, and I personally went through this myself, is we come from a fighting background and we
Mm.
come from a very hard-working background. If you look, especially Muay Thai fighters, man, we work our fucking asses off. And I'm going to try to be careful not to swear this time around in this podcast. So you don't have to spend too much time editing and bleeping me out. But we spend so much time working so hard as fighters for minimal pay that we just know fighting is part of it. Like, I remember Riddler would tell me, and this stuck with me forever. He was like, when you're a fighter, fatigue is just part of your life. You just accept being fatigued permanently. And then we transition that into business. And
Mm.
these guys work their asses off, man. Like most of the club owners I work with, 12 to 14-hour days, non-stop. PTs, admin, classes, back to back. And I did it myself. Like 80, 90-hour work weeks was just normal. And the transition between being a fighter, then a coach, and a business owner, every level of that requires you leveling up. And one of the most important parts with this is getting enough members to be able to afford the staff, to then delegate the work and find them some freedom and flexibility in your club. If you stay at that plateau mark at 100, 150 members, there's not going to be a magical summer where you double those member bases. And unfortunately, that's the harsh reality. You look at any business model that's a sole operator doing everything
Mm.
themselves, burnout is inevitable. Business does not operate like that.
How do you structure a gym in a way so that gym owners can avoid that burnout? We look at successful gyms, and I'm going to use Andrew Parham as an example. Okay,
Great
well,
model.
he's still a business owner and a coach of multiple different classes because he genuinely enjoys it, but also training fighters. And training fighters physically takes a toll on you. Training
Mhm.
beginners, well, it takes a bit of planning. I come from a teaching background. I don't know all about this curriculum development, having planning, a structured plan week by week, having a theme of that week. How do gym owners actually structure their business in a way that they can run a business effectively and still be a coach?
Really good question. So Andrew Parnham is absolutely the perfect example to use for this because I followed his journey obviously for a long time and I followed his business model for a long time. And now we're lucky enough to be working alongside of him to help him build his kids and teens program. Andrew Parnham, every single step of the way, has reached out and received mentorship, coaching, and business guidance in every facet of his business from day one. That's
Mm.
how he's grown. He's grown top level business coaching to be able to build sufficient business models. He's brought some best hires over. He's thrown himself into the world of marketing. He invests thousands of dollars into ad spend. He invests a ton of time into building his own knowledge and base. He delegates roles to sales, admin, instructors, coaches in order for him to still stay passionate and part of the sport. If you look at some of Andrew Parnham's content, it's some of the best content for beginners. He's got himself, like I remember one is at a bar, he's at the bathroom, he's taking a piss, and someone's talking to him about beginners classes. Like, really funny, beginner-friendly content. And
Yep.
this is what a lot of people mix up. So Andrew Parnham is the perfect example that we can relate back to how an amateur becomes a world champion. You can't train and keep the same knowledge base as an amateur Muay Thai fighter when you're going up for your state title fight, for your national fight,
Mm.
for your world title. You get strength and conditioning coaches. You go live extensively in Thailand. You get a nutritionist. You watch hours and hours of tape. You learn from the best. You throw yourself into the business of learning about Muay Thai inside out. I'm sure you were the same as me, Joe. When you were first starting out, you watch
Mm.
all the people at your level, then you watch higher, then you go live in Thailand, and you get different types of coaches. A lot of these combat sports gym owners treat their business the same way they would an amateur fight career, where they
Mm.
just fight for the love of it without ever reaching any heights.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting you put that and the importance of being, well, I think of releasing your ego a bit and allowing others to come in and be able to
Absolutely.
take over some of the things that you don't actually know about. Time and time again, I see coaches and trainers not know anything about nutrition, not know anything about strength and conditioning, but they'll try and take on all those roles as a nutritionist, as a strength and conditioning coach, even as a mindset coach. As a Muay Thai trainer, you should just be solely focused on the Muay Thai aspect. We can't rely now on the old wives' tales of, just doing water loading or just eating
Yep.
chicken, broccoli, and rice. There are people out there who specify in those fields. It's okay to outsource things that you're not comfortable with. Do you think that's an important thing for business owners to accept, that they actually are
100%.
allowed to outsource?
You said it the best way, and there's no way of sugarcoating, but put
Mm,
your ego to the side. And I'll go back to this analogy. When you've got an amateur fighter, telling him to eat a basic healthy diet, water load at the beginning of the week, you've only got 3 kilos to cut. This is an amateur fight. Get in there and have some fun. Just believe in yourself. That absolutely works. He's going for his WMC Australian title fight. You need the professionals in space.
mm,
And this is where growing to 80 members, 100% you build the culture, the club, the everything you want the way you want, and you put in the hard work. But once you reach a certain point, you have to understand your strengths and you have to understand your weaknesses. And that's what leveling up as a business owner does. Andrew Parnham has done that brilliantly. And that's why he's one of the leaders in the space for fighters, not promoters, but representatives in the Muay Thai scene for
mm.
Australia and New South Wales, and gym owners as well. It has been such a big effort on him that I don't think a lot of people realize how much time and money is invested into leveling up as a business owner.
Mm, And yeah, as you said, just getting rid of your ego and being able to accept that perhaps others actually know more than yourself.
And look, the ego is one of the most important parts as well that I really want to elaborate on because,
Mm,
you look at people's organic content, their
mm,
social media page, or ego. I tell the guys, your gym's Instagram page is not about showing off to the other gyms.
mm,
You have that in your personal page, your fighters build up their page, etc. It's really important to discuss this because for beginners, first impressions matter. So let's
mm,
say you're doing everything and you're running paid ads and you're investing in business coaching, you're coming to me and we're building your kids' program. When a beginner searches for a Muay Thai gym, they're not thinking about titles, they're not thinking about champions, they're not going, oh, that's a nice split in the forehead from an
mm.
elbow from the way. They're thinking, will I get smashed on my first day? Do normal people train here or are they just all killers? And can I actually stick with this? And
Mm.
if your gym's marketing doesn't answer those three questions, you're losing students before they even walk in. Beginners need proof about your gym before they show up.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the three questions because I know you have a three-part strategy or a three-section strategy or a three-step strategy to 100% success rate for gyms. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I like to keep things simple. So most of the things I do work
Mm,
in three. Your reverse triangle has got three sections. Your
mm,
business has got fighters, adults, and kids and teens department. But the
mm,
three-part system where the first one is, and when we talk about this, I've worked now with 75 combat sports gyms. They've all grown, they've all had success, and we've all been able to keep them true to the sport. So the first thing we plug in is a zip leads, which is the dummy proof lead generation system
mhm,
for ads and managing leads. And when I say dummy proof, I'm talking about imagine one of my clients where I'd sent him all the content via email. Bro, and I'm not going to mention his name, but we're going to be careful so I don't embarrass him too much. But I was like, look, I'll contact you Monday to go through the email. And his response was, how do I open my email?
mm.
So that's the kind of clients that we work with. And Zip Leads does that whole system for me, from
Yep.
running ads to lead management. The second one, which is a key component, which I can't emphasize enough, and I go through all of my social media content, always talking about the reverse triangle. The
Mm,
bottom of the triangle, the smallest piece, we've got our fighters. They lose you money.
mhm,
The adults department is our passion. That's where you grow to about 100, 120 members, and you don't want to dilute that. But then the kids and teens department.
mm,
This is the most profitable element of your business if you do it correctly. This should have the largest member base of all of your members. It should be the cheapest cost in wages. It should be the cheapest in marketing. I want these guys to understand that this is a whole business that we're plugging into your business. And
Mm.
that's what builds so much success. And the third component, which is something that it's been in the background in the works. My background being an accountant, numbers are important. You can't run your business based on a gut feel. You need to know your numbers, your referrals, your leads, your cancellations, your revenue, your profit. You need to know your numbers. So I've been working with Melina Young from previously used to fight out of, I think, Urban, used to
Yep.
run NRF.
Yep.
She's the head programmer for Clubworks. We're building out a specific combat sports version of Clubworks. So all these guys have all the reports that I teach them about with a click of a finger. I catch up with them quarterly. We go, where's your cancellations been? How's your leads been? How's your sales department going? What's your conversions? What's your cash flow like? Where are you increasing? Where are you decreasing? Cool. Here's a 90-day strategy for you moving forward. And this way, we're building their member base. We're plugging in members into the most profitable department of their business. And then we're tracking their numbers to make sure there's no holes we've missed as well. That's the way you build an effective business model. Because ultimately, we spoke about this last time. More members, more problems, more money, more problems.
Yep.
A lot of these clubs grow too rapidly, and so did mine. This is where Diesel Gym bled out. Our numbers become too much, our members become too much, our staff costs become too high. What you want to do is have high retention, high growth, premium pricing, and a lower member base. That way you can provide quality. You don't need to bring over, as we spoke about last time, a whole squad of ties that are going to cause you migraines. You can literally have a 300 to 400 member gym at premium pricing that you can actually build a healthy model based on.
Now, you were saying before, just before, where we were talking about the start of the three-part strategy for a successful gym. Fighters are one of the problems. Now, one of the issues is for a lot of business owners, they have to turn that fighter mentality off. And there's a difference between a fighter and a business owner. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I always refer to this, and I might get some stick for this as well, because I actually believe being a fighter to a coach to a business owner
Hmm.
all require a significant level up.
Yep.
In my opinion, and I spoke extensively to Pinky about this as well, coming from a fighter, you need experienced coaching before you become the coach.
Mm.
Because as a fighter, you've spent your career learning your style inside out.
Mm.
You haven't learned how to raise a beginner all the way up. You haven't learned the different styles. You haven't moved through it. You haven't done enough corners. Like, you
Mm.
don't want your first 20 fighters to be your guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, all right, next time I know what to say better in the corner. Like, you want to go through that inside out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunities in there in coaching if, again, people take away their ego and then go, oh man, I'm an awesome fighter. Now I'm going to become a coach. But then secondly, from a coach to a business owner, it's huge. So transitioning through that, you have to understand how business operates. And I will say this in a broad spectrum. This is why 80 to 90% of startup businesses fail, because
Mm.
people are amazing at their trade and then they move off and open a business. This is no different to a Sparky, a painter, anyone else who's done really well in their business and really well as the employee.
Mm.
And they goes, oh, if I'm really good at this, then I can run a business. And you're like, no, dude, you can't.
Yeah.
It's like someone go, I'm really good at Muay Thai, and they go off and have their first boxing bout. Like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Like, that's what a jab is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? The whole game changes, and people have to really learn how to transition between being a fighter, a coach, and then a business owner, and understand how much incredible experience is required there. But this is why, as you said earlier, we're in a lucky space. My generation of gym owners, we learned the hard way. The
Mm.
generation before that, there was much less competition.
Mm.
So you could open a gym, there would be no one in sight for 20 kilometers. And as long as you had a good reputation, people would come to you and your gym would get full. Back in the days when the karate schools at the local town hall would set up mats and have 500 students,
Mm.
that's completely changed. And the same with the fight game. Back in the day, like you could fight and go through the ranks. 15, 20 years ago, a 10-time fighter who has had 10 fights versus someone today on Roots or Rebellion that has had 10 fights, man, it's miles apart.
Yeah.
It's miles apart. Like I even look at my fifth fight and I see some of the boys in their fifth fight now, and I'm like, lucky I'm not fighting any of them. Like
Absolutely. I still say that. And that was only 8 years ago was my last fight. So you look at how Muay Thai has just changed so rapidly in such a short amount of time and
Yep. And I always
generational
get it.
thing.
I always get it. Like every club owner that I've worked with, if you
Mm.
actually go through my reviews and testimonials, they're like, our only regret is not seeing Frankie earlier. Because once you plug in this simple model, when someone cuts weights for 20 fights struggling and then does a proper nutritionist weight cut, and they're like, oh my God, was it that easy? You're like, yeah, like this is the way you cut weight. And when I plug them in and they get leads, like I just got a message from one of the clients that we're working with, Dave McIntosh, DM Muay Thai. Been in the scene for a long time, coached at an Urban. He did the hard yards as a fighter, as a coach, worked underneath everyone. And when he was speaking to me, he was like, oh man, like, you know, the gym's fairly new. I think he had about 80 members. And this is about 4 months ago. And he's like, oh man, struggling, not sure if this is the right thing. I've done ads. I'm not sure if I'm doing it. And I was like, bro, like, we guarantee what we do. So invest the money. If it doesn't work out within 2 months, you'll get your money back from us. Guaranteed. This is the guarantee that we throw in as a pitch. He messaged me today, like 4 months into working with us. He's already grown by 45 members. He's on track to hitting 150 members in the next few months. Literally looking at doubling his member base within 12 months of working with us. It just works. But for a lot of these gym owners, they're like, oh man, I don't want to run ads. I don't want to be an F45. I don't want to be a sellout. And the simple fact is, modern marketing isn't selling out. It's making it easy for beginners to start their journey with you. Paid ads, beginner-focused social media content, and good effective systems and CRMs makes your life easier, makes you more money, and allows you to stay passionate in the sport. It's just a brainer. But then I speak to guys and they're like, oh man, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 12 months. And then 12 months later, they're like, shit, I wish I started with you 12 months ago.
Yeah, it's amazing to see it. And I think it's one of those things that people need to realize that investing in yourself and investing in education is really beneficial for actually scaling up, not only as a fighter, not only as a trainer, not only as a business owner, but all different facets of the industry, whether you're a cornerman, whether you're a referee, an officiator, it always pays to have more education. Here in Thailand,
Absolutely.
there's a couple of guys running cutman courses on how to wrap hands and be a cornerman. Perfect. Beautiful. How many people actually know how to corner properly? How many people know how to wrap hands officially rather than just seeing old Bob from, I don't know, the Hammerhead Shark Gym do it 20 years ago? I hope there isn't a Bob from a Hammerhead Shark Gym, but you
Yeah,
know,
you'll be getting some like nasty DMs. But I remember, like, I was with
yeah.
Riddler for 10 years. When I went to the UK and I had my first fighters. Now, understand, I was coaching alongside of Riddler for 8 years. We were having 50, 60 fights a year, like close to 1,000 corners I probably did with Riddler in my apprenticeship to coach with him. I went to Diesel Gym in London, had my first fighter, and I was messaging dads going, fuck, how do I wrap hands? How do I do this? How do I do that? He's like, Frankie, you've done this a lot of times on with me. You're going to be fine. But I've done it so many times with Riddler.
Yeah.
Whereas, what I mean, a fighter to a coach, they're like, oh, I'm used to getting my hands wrapped. How do I wrap someone's hand? What do I say
Yep.
in the corner? I'm a tall knee fighter. He's a short puncher. Knee him. He's like, oh shit, the
Yeah,
knees
yeah.
aren't working. Like the whole, and this same thing happens in when they open up their gyms. And they see the difference is they see a lot of people nowadays with successful gyms, and they think I'm a better coach than him, so my gym is going to be more popular than his. This. Back to the McDojo, man. Drive by the local karate school at 4 p.m. and watch how packed out they are.
Or dare I say, jujitsu.
You know what the funniest part is? Muay Thai crushes jiu-jitsu all day long when it
Yep.
comes to business. Even when I do coaching for the MMA gyms, Go
Mm.
70, 80% Muay Thai. Beginners, again, beginners. Look, jiu-jitsu schools that have been around for a long time have an incredible culture and a cult-like behavior in there.
Mm.
But beginners don't want to go to the ground. They want to start their journey standing up.
People want to hit stuff hard.
Let's not get choked out.
Yeah, that's one of those things. And last week you mentioned about fighter mindset coaching. Could you talk to us a little bit about that? Because that's something I'm a little bit interested in. I remember an old opponent of mine, Enrico, who recently fought on 1774 on Saturday. And when I fought him for the WMC state title, he was getting mindset coaching. So it was really interesting, even back then, like 2016. So long time ago, we're talking 8 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, that was still around. So can you talk to us a little bit about the mindset coaching?
Man, look, this is the missing piece for fighters, for
Mm,
gym owners, for mental health, and it's something that I hold really dearly to my heart.
mm,
As we spoke about it last week, Muay Thai saved my life, but it's very been turbulent for a lot. And the journey down Muay Thai and the journey down mental health awareness for myself has been such a powerful impact.
mm,
And there's been so many times in my life that it's become so difficult, but the training in both has really helped me.
mm,
And when Diesel closed, I went through my divorce. I lost everything. I really hit a rock bottom place.
mm,
And I'd been focusing on my mental health for such a long time as well. But at that point, I was absolutely broken. I was shattered.
mm,
So then I threw myself very deep in my own personal journey and learning, to uncover more about myself. And I started studying my master's in counseling. And I'd always had a massive passion for performance psychology,
mm,
as you do as a fighter, as you do as an athlete, as you do a business owner. And mental training is just as important for fighters as what the physical is. Like, I'll ask you this simple question. What percentage of fighting do you think is mental? What percentage of fighting do you think is physical, Joe?
70-30.
70 to the
70%,
mental?
yeah, 70% mental.
Good answer. So when I speak to amateurs, it's 50-50.
Yep.
When you speak to national level fighters, it's usually 70-30. When you look at the world champion and the elite, it's
Mm,
90-10. And then
mm,
the other question I pose the fighters when I work with them and I do these seminars is, all right, so let's say 70-30. If 70% is mental, if 30% is physical, you're training 3 hours a day as a minimum, 5 days a week, 15 hours. You're putting
mm,
15 hours towards the 30% bucket. Are you then doing the equivalent of that to the mental bucket?
mm.
And most of them, they're not even doing a fraction of it.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And we always talk about the conscious and the subconscious. So
Mm,
if you know anything about the brains and the psychology, 5% of your brain is conscious. You're deciding what you're
hmm
doing. 95% of who you are, what you do is in the subconscious that has been programmed throughout your entire life and throughout
mm,
your fighting career. Your wins, your losses, your knockouts, your trauma, your past life, all these kind of things, all these behaviors that are programmed in. So
mm,
being able to actually recognize what the brain's function is, being able to go back and reprogram it, be able to instill visualization, it builds a whole different level in the fighters. I actually had a couple of fighters on 1774. I don't know
mm.
if you saw Buddy Holland fight,
Yep.
and
Yep.
he won the rematch, the WBC state title. I've been working with him for a few weeks now,
Yep.
and his mindset, the way we shifted in, you would have seen he was
Mm.
hungry for that.
Laser
Like,
focused.
oh man, would not stop, was relentless. And we actually like visualize stuff like him standing in the corner as during the rest round, staring at Mark, getting ready, wanting him, just relentless.
Mm,
That kind of behavior. I also worked with young Bailey, who was going up against the veteran, and Bailey's a very
mm,
interesting character. He's the perfect definition of someone who brings in an alter ego into the
mm.
gym, into the ring, sorry,
Yep.
and building on that mental coaching, same way that Nugget said, the concept of building heart, building that mental toughness, that resilience, that discipline, and teaching these fighters about a world champion mindset
Mm,
performing day to day, what to do at the gym, and then how to plug that into their training, how to show up conscious to the training. Like you
mm,
know as well as I, a lot of these guys, including us, will probably show up to the gym, switch the brain off, and do what coach said.
mm,
Coach said run, coach said hit pads, X,
mm,
Y, Z, and
mm,
you just go through the motions. But we actually build out training to replicate fight night. So when
mm,
fight night comes up, they've already done that. If they're training 15 hours a week over 4 week fight camp, that's 60 hours of physical. You
mm.
plug in 60 hours of mental conscious training during that physical, man, they're unstoppable. And then incorporating that for even the gym owners, I teach my gym owners, I go, with a fighter, you build their aerobic level, you build their skill, then you build up their fitness. Then 2 weeks out, you plug in power phase for their anaerobic level. Then a week out, you taper off, you reduce the training, you focus on the nutrition. Then you
Mm,
give them a week off after their fight. So if you do all of that for your fighter, you do that for yourself. I teach my gym owners, treat your business like a fight camp. Don't
mm,
sit there, be in power phase all year round and wonder why you're now. Imagine you had a top quality fighter, Australian champion. You put
mm.
him back to back fights every 3 or 4 weeks with no build up, no taper, no rest. You just did it Thai style with them.
Yep.
6 months into it, what do you think would have happened to that fighter? Injuries, burnout, hated
Yep.
the sport, broke. And then I go to the gym owners, I go, so what makes you think you can do that in business?
Yeah.
And this applies to the entire mental health strategy, man. Like I'm a real big advocate, especially for men's mental health, simply because, look, I don't understand women. I only understand men. Like men's mental health is very different to women's.
Yeah.
Like the talk psychology has a real important element. We need to learn how to articulate our emotions.
Mm.
But the fighter's mindset of discipline, purpose, resilience, along with positive self-talk, compassion, kindness to yourself, all of these things, man, I'm so excited to be able to bring that back into the sport and to the people that are part of the sport as well.
It's a really exciting development at the moment. It's something I'm looking forward to hearing more about. Maybe we can, yeah, I mean,
Podcast.
we could delve into it in the next episode. Now, for this episode, that's nearly all we have time for. So, Frankie
Yep.
D, the man of the hour, I thank you so much for your time, giving me your 5 cents, especially about the business world of Muay Thai, and something that I don't know a lot about, but it's something that I'm quite passionate about is upscaling our sport and making sure that it goes global. So you're one of the
Absolutely.
people that's going to make it happen for Australia and pushing business owners to be better. So thank you very much for all your hard work. And this is episode 33. You can catch it on Spotify, YouTube,